Welcome back to the Nikki Clarke Radio Show on wearehotline.net. And joining us today is the founder and CEO of Wired to Succeed. Please welcome Jacinth, Tracey to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Nikki?
Very good, thank you. I'm all rested up from the weekend. How was your weekend?
It was busy. I'm busy trying to launch a new workshop, and so there was a bit of work and a bit of play. We have a new dog, so I'm forced to play and to take breaks. That's a good thing.
Oh, that's nice. But sometimes animals and children, they force you to have a balance between the work and play action, definitely.
They do. And
so
for
tell
us
me a little
entrepreneurs
bit.
where we work. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And then for us entrepreneurs or people who own our own business, there may be a tendency sometimes to really have a skewed work-life balance, more skewed towards work than life. So children and animals are really, really good for making sure that we have more of a balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. So let's talk a little bit about some of the qualities that you've acquired and the experiences through education and, through your own merit, through your professional relationships. What can you tell us about your background leading up to creating Wired to Succeed?
Okay. Well, my background is in academics, first of all. I have several degrees, a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, a Master's and a PhD in Mental Health and Performance Management. And when I was going through graduate school, I really wanted to be a professor when I grew up. And halfway through the doctorate degree, I decided, you know what, it had some merit, but it wasn't really where I felt that I could do my best work. I really loved doing the research, and I really loved education and teaching the students, and I was very, very good at lecturing and writing tests and holding office hours. But I found that the education was really more towards the elite, right? It didn't really trickle down to the layperson in terms of how the information that we knew as scholars could actually help people live better lives, mentally healthy lives. And so when I decided I really wanted my work to have a more immediate impact, I was recruited into corporate life, and that was a health research organization specializing in generating reports about mental and physical health. So I thought that's fantastic, because then my research would have more relevance in terms of helping the population, and that really worked well for a while. So I was able to, for almost 10 years, I was a high-paid corporate executive, earning six figures in a corner office with my nice name on the door, and did media interviews, generated several health reports, and I really, really felt like I was making a difference. But I'm not quite sure how many of your audience work in corporate, but we know in corporate that our roles and responsibilities change over time. And as a function of some lateral transfers and some promotions, I was finding I was spending less and less time mentoring my staff and coaching them to success, and actually engaging the public, and more times behind my desk talking about data loadings and talking about IT. So I grew a little bit dissatisfied in terms of that I wasn't living my authentic life in terms of what I brought for value and what I knew people valued in me. And so it took about a year of introspection in terms of thinking, what did I really find important in my work? Was it the extrinsic values of having a six-figure salary and the prestige of having my name on the door? Or was I really leaning towards something more intrinsic in terms of what I valued in terms of the social responsibility aspect, the coaching aspect, the mentoring aspect? And eventually I thought, you know what? Even though I was single at the time, I was married now, and I didn't know anybody at that time who had contemplated leaving a secure corporate salary for entrepreneurship. I faced my fears head on, and I launched Wired to Succeed.
There you go. That's fantastic. And isn't it amazing how you can reflect back and see how it unfolded the way it did? And sometimes, I can look back and go, wow, I had moments of doubt. I didn't understand what was happening, and then it all worked out. And I think especially when you... when you walk into a place of authenticity and you're really owning your purpose, everything seems to fall into place. Would you say that?
It does. And I tell people, it may not seem like it makes sense at the time. As they say, we live life forward and understand it backwards. It certainly didn't make sense at the time for me, because here I thought, okay, I wanted to be an academic, and now I wasn't an academic. I wanted to be a corporate executive, and now I was going to be a corporate executive. What the heck was I doing, you know? Because although I had succeeded, because, oh, my gosh, you have all these degrees, and you're making all this money, and you're known, I thought, like, oh, my gosh, Jacinth, you're moving from one thing to the other. Certainly it was over a period of time, but I thought, okay, what am I doing? But in retrospect, now everything I have done has dovetailed nicely into this business. All the academic training I've had in mental health and physical health outcomes and performance management, all this, the education I did in terms of helping people succeed, all my students succeed and excel, overcoming success barriers to their academic success. And a lot of times when you hold office hours for students, you're also talking about personal barriers as well and perceived barriers. And then all the training I had as a corporate executive, helping my staff, you know, achieve success, making sure they met deadlines, making sure that my team could function properly. All that stuff is dovetailed into the business of what I do now in leadership and business consulting, helping people to succeed and overcome their own structural and perceived barriers to success. So, yeah, when I was in it, it didn't particularly make sense, and we had fear barriers, both you and I. But in retrospect, it all makes sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanted to ask you, the name Wired to Succeed, very catchy, very strong. How did you coin it?
And, you know, when we talk about developing a brand, it has to resonate with the public in terms of, okay, what does that mean? But I think more importantly, when I talk to my entrepreneurs and even my leaders about developing their personal brand within the corporate environment, it has to resonate with us authentically, right? So when I thought about what does it take to help people become successful in life, obviously my training in mental health sort of harkened me back to the neurological wiring of the brain, right? Our neural pathways and how that becomes wired in a certain way to think either in functional ways or dysfunctional ways. We have either functional or dysfunctional thoughts, emotions, and behavioral responses to certain stimuli within our environment. So we're wired in terms of our brain. But we're also wired in terms of our mind, right? So our subconscious mind, all our conditioning, all the paradigms that we adopt in terms of our habitual ways of thinking and responding becomes wired in us as well. And our body is also wired. Some actions are easier for us to perform than others. This is a function of us having repeated them over time. So we're all wired, but we can be wired for success or we can be wired for failure. And I wanted to make sure that people knew that they are actually wired for success. We are born wired to succeed. It's just that the stuff that happens to us as we grow up and as we become sort of victims of what our parents, you know, input into us and what our media says and our peers say and even our own limiting beliefs as a function of exposure to these things that challenge us, we unwire ourselves for success. What I want to do is wire them back for success. And so that's where that came out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's talk about some of the people that have been blessed by you. Who are your clients? And, you know, let's talk about some of the projects that you have out in the community. I know you do workshops and a lot of interactive community programs. Let's talk about that.
Well, for some reason, I attract more women than men, which is fine with me because women are my own avatars, right? I love coaching people who I know exactly what they've gone through. I know exactly what sort of some of the conditioning that they've had in terms of, you know, good girls don't raise their hands in board meetings and argue with the CEO, or good girls are afraid of being assertive because that could be conceived to be aggressive. So I know what women are going through in terms of trying to climb the ladder of success or trying to establish themselves in the business world whereby they want to feel empowered but are constrained by some of these social constructs of what it means to be a powerful woman. Some of those are good things and some of those are bad things in terms of negative, right? And so I know what they're going through. And so what I do is I coach corporate and entrepreneurial women who have achieved a certain level of success or are striving for that, but find themselves stuck. So they're experiencing either structural or perceived glass ceilings, and I help them overcome that. So for the structural stuff, We deal with tools and strategies and communication strategies and presentation strategies, how you walk into a room, how you talk, how you negotiate deals. But I find that we need to start primarily with the perceived glass ceilings, just like you and I did, right? We have to address our fear barriers. We have to address our habitual excuse-making or limiting beliefs that says that we can't or shouldn't strive for a higher level of success. So I deal with the corporate entrepreneurial women on the VIP level, and I also provide corporate services for small to mid-sized corporations of about 10 to 200 who don't really have the in-house department to address their concerns. So I do lunch and learns and workshops and seminars. But as you mentioned, not everybody can afford a VIP. Although I made a huge investment in my training when I left my corporate life. So although I had all these wonderful degrees, it didn't mean that I knew how to run a business or to coach at the level I wanted to coach. And so I made an investment in my business, and probably I'm sure you and all the women you know, make huge investments in their business. But I think for the entrepreneurs, especially startups, they are kind of reluctant to make that investment. They're really afraid. They have limiting beliefs around their money mindset. So I've also started to develop group workshops whereby the investment is like 10% of the VIP service, but they get a lot of what they need to do to overcome these structural and perceived barriers as well. So for the entrepreneurs, we talk about the importance of a business case and making sure that you brand successfully. And for the corporate leaders, we talk about, how to communicate effectively, how to manage teams, how to present themselves, how to, go after their goals. So it's individual services as well as the VIP and workshops.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Yeah.
When is your next workshop?
The next workshop, I just launched one on Eventbrite. It's called Powered for Biz. And POWER is an acronym from one of my signature programs. And that you can find on Eventbrite, or you could also find it on my Wire to Succeed Facebook page. And I think there's only 3 more sessions for the first one, and then it will be restarting again. So it's a 5-part series, and that includes face-to-face workshop time. So I'm in a group of up to 20 women or men. Men are welcome as well. And so we go through some of the standardized assessment tools that I use with my VIP clients, and then we go back on Facebook and we have group meetings where I talk and I coach them at a group level. The next week we meet again for 2 hours. We go through their workbook. They work on assessment tools. And so it is a really good combination of face-to-face as well as group coaching. And so that's my Powered for Biz on an Eventbrite. I'm doing a similar one called Powered to Lead, and that's about to launch probably in another month or so. And I'm hoping to actually get those into an online workshop. My web designer is working in the background because obviously not everybody lives in Toronto and can come to one of those locations for the workshop. So I'm hoping to reach as many people as I can to help them overcome perceived and structural barriers to their success.
Okay. Wonderful. Let's talk about how you've been transformed by, just being such a wonderful guide for people in their personal and professional lives.
And I think every time we interact with somebody, we're transformed, whether we know it or not, right? Even people who we interact with that leave us feeling kind of yucky, they're there for a reason. They transform us for the worse or for the better. For me, this whole thing about starting my own business and helping people succeed has been it's been a blessing. When I left corporate life, I thought I was one of the few who had, the self-doubts and the limiting beliefs. And although by all means I was a strong, in-charge woman, like many people, we're secretly fighting our battles behind closed doors, right? Because nobody wants to admit that they're vulnerable. And to be able to share my vulnerability with women, either in a one-to-one VIP session or a group, but you know what? Sharing it on a platform where you're talking to a room of 200, 300 people and you're saying, yeah, I was scared. Yeah, I had all these excuses. Yeah, people doubted me and thought I was crazy. It's wonderful in terms of making me more open about sharing my story. There is no fear. There is no shame. It is what I have to offer to help them grow. So I think for me, that was the biggest transformation. I'm much more open to sharing even personal aspects of my life than I had been previously, because I know it helps, and it helps me as well, because when we don't have anything to hide, we have nothing to fear.
Absolutely. That is very, very true.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure the listeners have, really learned a great deal from what you've shared with us in just a short period of time. Where can they contact you if they'd like to join in on one of your workshops or just to connect with you one-on-one?
Oh, I'd love that. You can Google me. I'm all over the place. But my website is wiredtosucceed.com. It's wired, the number 2, succeed. So it's WIRED, the number 2, SUCCEED.com. I'm on Facebook as both Jacinth Tracey and as Wired to Succeed. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm actually very proud to have been listed as now number 4 among my peers on LinkedIn. So I'm crawling up there. I was hovering at 5 for weeks, so it's good. Yeah, I'm on Twitter as well as Jacinth Tracey, or they can just email me at jacinth@wiredtosucceed.com. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, if you just tuned in to the interview with the amazing Jacinth Tracey, founder of Wired to Succeed, and you missed the earlier part of the conversation, you don't have to worry. We're going to be playing the interview throughout the month on wearehotline.net, the Nikki Clarke Show, 11 a.m. to noon, Monday to Thursday. Jacinth, I just want to thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it. And I just want to say congratulations to you for everything you're doing in the community.
And thank you, Nikki. It's been an honor to work with you as well. And congratulations on your best-selling author status. We were both contributors to a book recently, The Vision Quest, and you had a chapter on If You Can See It, You Can Achieve It. My chapter was How I Overcame Limiting Beliefs and Achieved Life Success. I also have solo best-selling books. But congratulations on all your accomplishments as well. You're really a beacon for women to follow.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. All right, you've been listening to Jacinth Tracey on the Nikki Clarke Radio Show. I want to wish you a wonderful evening, and we'll catch up soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.